Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Talk on the Issues from the U.S. Embassy. My name is Claudia Solis, and I am the Education USA Advisor from La Paz. Today, I am joined with Diego Alivian, the person in charge of Fulbright at the U.S. Embassy. And we are so happy to be with you today because we're going to talk about a very requested subject. We're going to talk about the Fulbright Program. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to Diego, who's going to tell you everything that you want to know about the Fulbright Program. Diego?
Hey, hello, friends. It's really good to be here, and it's really good. I'm really thankful that you are following us and you're interested in the Fulbright Program. It really is a pleasure to be able to talk to you about Fulbright. As Claudia said, I'm Diego Ballivian. I run the Fulbright Program. I'm responsible for the Fulbright Program at the U.S. Embassy here in La Paz. That's where Fulbright operates from. So basically, I want to talk about a program that is, I think, a little different from many of the other programs that exist in the world, programs of scholarships, in the sense that this program was created by a man that I admire very much. His name is William Fulbright. Fulbright was a senator that had gone through a program of exchanges when he was young. He spent time in the UK with a Rhodes Scholarship, and he got to see what really exchange programs can do for a person. So he decided to create the Fulbright Program in a very important, very difficult time in history. That was 1946, right after World War II. And his vision was to create a program that was going to be an academic program, but also he was very much focused on the cultural aspect in general, exchanges in that sense as well. And he created the Fulbright Program with this vision to create to instill more peace, to create through a program, give more peace to the world, bring more peace to humanity. And and I think he was very successful because the Fulbright Program has grown exponentially since 1946. And it's grown exponentially, and I say that because today, it's exactly 155 countries that are part of the Fulbright Program, that participate in the Fulbright Program. And about more than 390,000 people have participated in the Fulbright Program. And I'm talking about, Americans that have participated, but then people from, like I said, 155 countries that have been part of the Fulbright Program, that have gone to the States, but also Americans that have gone to more even than 155 countries throughout the world to do different academic activities, programs, projects, etc. So the Fulbright Program, it's not just about academics, even though the reputation of the Fulbright Program is tremendous. I really have to be I think I'm being modest when I tell you people that the Fulbright Program is probably the most prestigious program in the world, and it's the largest too. So be mindful of the fact that, this program also pays a lot of attention to what Senator Fulbright once said. It was his motto, and he talked about creating better mutual understanding between peoples of the world, the U.S. and the rest of the world. And again, I think the program has been tremendously successful, and his vision really has come to fruition, and it continues to be a program of incredible dimensions in every aspect that we can think of. So better mutual understanding. And again, when I mentioned also prestige, it's quite amazing to think that the Fulbright Program can say that 158 Nobel Prize winners representing 14 countries have been Fulbrights at some point in their lives. And I think that the Fulbright Program too, and I could give you lots of examples about that, has been tremendously important, instrumental for them in becoming persons of great height and being able to get the Nobel Prize. So Fulbright really was very important for them. I think it's important that we are going to talk about. Absolutely. We are going to talk about technical things. We're gonna touch on a lot of things that I know you're interested in to speak about the details of the Fulbright program. But let me just give you a little bit of information. I think this is something that we don't usually speak about, and you won't usually find it written anywhere. But
yeah, no, I totally agree, because I think sometimes we focus too much on the requirements and we don't focus on the quality of the people that we're looking for Fulbright, right? So I feel that's when your insight is so valuable.
There's a philosophy behind Fulbright that we need to be mindful of. So think about these things if you are serious and you really want to apply to the Fulbright program. But do consider these things. How will you represent Bolivia? How will you represent your own self? How will you represent the institution that you might be representing? There might be an institution behind you, especially if you are applying for the Fulbright LAFPA, which is for faculty development. And how will you represent your profession as a Bolivian? You have to be very, very mindful of what motivates you to apply to Fulbright, because again, we're talking about a very important scholarship and a very competitive scholarship. So be really serious and think about what motivates you to apply to a think about, I'm sure that you think about a lot of things, but then ask yourself, why do you want to study in the United States with a Fulbright? Ask yourself, what is your focus? What kind of focus do you have? Are you absolutely certain of where you want to go? What do you want to? What sort of studies do you want to pursue? Think about that. Are you focused on that? It's super important. You need to have very clear ideas and objectives. I always say that, but this is really, really important. You have to be serious about what you want to do, and you have to know, and you have to have that assertiveness that you are certain of what you want to study, because that assertiveness is very important. If you get to continue, and then you are interviewed, and you need to show us that. You need to show that assertiveness that has to do with the clarity of your objectives and the clarity of your and the coherence that you'll bring to the program.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I feel sometimes I tell my students, when at Education USA we work with a lot of Fulbright prospective scholars, and I always tell them, the Fulbright is not the goal; it's a bridge. You have to think of it as a means. You have to think about what is your goal, how does that play within Bolivia's development. What are you offering the Fulbright scholars, right? So I think what you say is very important. You really have to think about how do you fit into this, into the national needs? How do you fit? How do you feel towards the future? Like, you really have to question that before applying to a Fulbright, if you want to make a successful application, of course.
Absolutely. Like Claudia said, I think that think about what would you like to bring back to Bolivia? Be prepared to really talk about that, and in a very realistic way. Not say, because we hear a lot of cliches. People saying, I want to help my country. I want to fight poverty. I am going to conquer poverty, kind of thing. Be realistic. That's excellent. I think the goals are fabulous, but you have to be practical and realistic. Hopefully, if the time will come when you are faced with an interview, you have to bear in mind one thing: Fulbright is a program of exchanges. Exchanges is a key word, and it's not just because, again, I think that many people are used to thinking that a scholarship is something that it's only to go and get knowledge. And fine, it is important, and you get knowledge and you learn a lot of things, and you become a better professional. There's a technical part that's fantastic. Yes, of course, but then be mindful of the fact that in Fulbright, we are interested in the exchange of, when we talk exchanges, we're talking culture. We're talking experiences that enrich the person in very many other ways beyond the academic part. The academic part is fundamental, but it's not everything. So be mindful of that.
No, yeah. Because I think
all of those experiences will enrich you in other ways as well, right?
No, yeah, I totally agree. And I think there is this almost misunderstanding of how scholarships work. I think we always think as someone giving us something, and we don't realize we also have a lot to give, right? We think sometimes as when we think of scholarships as like we're receivers, but we're also giving a lot. And I think a vital question to ask yourself when you're applying for Fulbright is, what do I bring to the table, right? What am I putting? What type of knowledge am I contributing? Because Diego, as you know, I mean, we both study in the United States, and we know how, like, it really in the U.S. classroom, the teacher, yes, he's there to teach. The professors are there to teach, but they also learn a lot from you. And the classroom environment also learns a lot from you. So we want to know that by sending you, we're not only sending someone to learn things that they can apply to Bolivia, but also what can you tell about the Bolivian experience in the United States, and maybe change the minds of people in the U.S. that are not familiar with Bolivia, or maybe have never even once heard about Bolivia, right? So I think that is very true. It's an exchange program, and not that someone is coming physically in exchange of you, but it's an exchange of knowledge, right? So we want to make sure, I think an ideal, I mean, and Diego, you are the one that knows best, but I think when I think of Fulbright, I think of someone that is, yes, very open-minded, ready to learn, but someone that is also very willing to share and, to bring forward who they are and what they represent.
Yeah, beautifully said. Beautifully said, Claudia. Claudia is also, she represents a new generation. She's been she received a scholarship to study in the U.S., so she knows what she's talking about. Kind of to sum it up, I just want to say Fulbright is about cross-cultural understanding. Fulbright is about expanding knowledge, of course it is, and expanding knowledge, both ways, obviously, and it's about one very key. There's also a key thing here. Fulbright is about deepening leadership, because we're looking for leaders. Don't forget that. Put that word. I hope it sticks in your mind. But Fulbright is a program for leaders. It really is a program of leadership. So, introspection in this case is super important. Question yourself, ask yourself, I mean, am I a true leader? What do I do? We don't want to discuss leadership at this point, but I think that we're all leaders to different degrees.
Yes.
So question yourself, what kind of leader am I? And maybe find a definition for leadership, and then think about it and see how it applies to you, and how is that related to Fulbright, and how can that really make a difference if you apply. And obviously you want to be successful, but if you apply successfully to a Fulbright scholarship. Well, thank you. I just wanted to talk about things that we don't usually talk about, but
no, I think this is important, because I think it's important. We talk about this often. Yeah,
right.
And
now we can also look at the more technical part of Fulbright if you want to do that, and obviously we want to answer questions. I know you guys, and it's super important that we answer questions and we clarify things as much as possible, because this session is for that. We want to, in a very friendly way and in a very relaxed way. I think we all are. We just want to answer questions, and we want to make everything very clear for you people. Can we look into the
So thank you for the great advice, Diego. I think it's very useful. Definitely ponder these questions. Everyone that's thinking of applying leadership, think about what your goals, think about everything that we just told you when you're going through your application. And while we also want you to go through that, we want you to know also what are the requirements and how to actually do the application. So without further ado, if we can have the slide, please. There we go. These are the required documents in order to apply for Fulbright. First, you will need the online application. You can find at the U.S. Embassy website or Facebook, or you can also find it at the Facebook page of Education USA. It is pinned at the top. You will find it. It's a link. You have to copy paste it. Do not click directly on it. There you will find the online application. You have to fill some information, and then they will ask you for the following information as well. They will ask you for a personal and academic statement. Please do it no more than 700 words. 500 to 700 really is what we're looking at. We want to see how well you write in English. We want to see, we want to hear about you. We want to hear your academic goals. But we also want to hear you as a person. Who are you? What are your dreams? What do you want to do with the Fulbright Scholarship? What do you have to contribute to the Fulbright? Right? So I think the personal academic statement is one of my favorite parts when I get the chance to sometimes read Fulbright applications, because we really get to know you. So put a lot of effort into those, and also you can work with those with an education as an advisor. So reach us out if you want to help with that. You will also need your university transcript, and for that, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Because of the situation that we're currently going through, it's okay if you send online transcripts from your university website. You can download them, or in some cases, you may even put, if your university doesn't offer that, you may even do a screenshot. Is that what you're doing?
Right. One thing I want to say, yes. One thing I want to say, this year, given the COVID-19 situation all over the world, there's one key word, and that word is flexibility. Okay.
Yes.
Like for instance, with the Fulbright Program for faculty development, the deadline has been postponed to June 1st. So that, I think that gives you the idea that flexibility is something that is going to be the order of the day. We are going to be flexible. I hope that as much as you can round up, you can get all the documents needed for the online application. But again, I think that that there might be extensions also given to Fulbright, because this ongoing COVID situation is forcing us to be flexible and to maybe not make plans long run plans, or but more look at the short term, middle term.
Yeah, no, thank you,
So
Diego.
there will be flexibility.
We definitely want to say to you out there is flexibility. We understand these are difficult times. We don't want you to go to your university and expose yourself and your family. So it's okay if you send us online transcripts. It's okay if you send us pictures. As long as you send us something, that's okay. That fulfills the requirement. Also, further on, we may ask you for something more official, but that will be further on. So don't worry right now. We are working with you. We know where you're at. We're all going through it. So don't worry about it. We're here to help. And, Education USA is always there to help with questions. So make sure you reach out. Then another, a scanned university degree. It's also, again, you can take a picture. However, it's very important that you have already finished your studies at university. Remember that, in order to apply for a master's, you have to be finished. And you know that here in Bolivia, sometimes, all the paperwork to obtain the degree can take longer than expected. Unfortunately, we really want it to be done, because we know sometimes it can take long, and that can, get in the way of the Fulbright program. But if that's the case, if right now you're doing your thesis, or maybe you're in that paperwork, don't worry. I mean, maybe not this year, but next year. The Fulbright program has been in Bolivia for over 20 years now, Diego?
I'm sorry?
The Fulbright program has been in Bolivia for over 20 years?
Oh, it's been in Bolivia since early 60s. So
oh, wow. See, so it's been here for a long time. It's not going anywhere. Don't worry. You don't need to rush. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You need to be already finished with your undergraduate degree. Another important requirement is the CV or resume. And this is something that we put a lot of emphasis to. Here in Bolivia, there's a culture of presenting your CV or resume with documentation. In this case, you do not have to include documentation for your CV or resume. 4 pages maximum is all we need to know. We just want to know the most important things that you have done, the most relevant. What do you think will make you stand out from the pool of applicants of Fulbright? We don't need to know everything you've done in your entire life. We just want to know what's relevant to your application right now and to your future development. So keep that in mind when you're doing your CV or resume. Another requirement, 3 recommendation letters. These are very important because this let us know about what your peers think about you. In this, we recommend, maybe professors, or maybe if you're working, maybe a boss, a colleague. We definitely do not recommend family or friends. So take time to ask these people for a recommendation letter. Make sure it's someone that knows you really well, that will be able to write about your strengths and why they think you're a good prospective scholar for Fulbright. So take your time to ask for those. Another requirement, a very important requirement, is the Toefl score report. And for this, there is a minimum requirement of 94 over 120. The Toefl right now has been, because of COVID-19, you can no longer take it at given locations, but now you can take it at home. So for those of you who are worried, like, how can I take the Toefl if all the dates have been canceled because of coronavirus? Don't worry. Now you can take it from home. You can take it online. You just have to go to the Toefl ETS page and you can get all the information there. If not, again, Education USA is there to help you. And last but not least, this is not a requirement, and this will not necessarily, put you ahead of other people that are applying for Fulbright, but it's a useful piece of information if you do have it. So if you do have taken the GRE, we highly recommend that you include it if you have a good grade and would like to share that with us. So those are the required documents. Am I missing something, Diego?
No, Clarita. I think you're, right on that. No. That's correct. That's absolutely correct. I just want to emphasize one thing to everybody that's watching us. We have an incredible tool that now, especially now that everything is being done online and long distances. Education USA is so very important, and I just want to stress the fact that you all have the support of Education USA. There's 5 centers in Bolivia: La Paz, Cochabamba, Santa Cruz, Sucre, Tarija. But regardless of that, if obviously we're working online, so you can, write to Claudia. There's Education USA. Get in touch with Education USA. They are the best. There's nothing better than Education USA to give you a hand, to give you support in your application, the whole process. Okay, because and again, we work with them. They are like a decentralized office, but in reality, they're also part of us. They're also part of the embassy. They're also part of us. So bear that in mind, even though they work mostly at binational centers, but except for La Paz, that they work at the UPB, but they are a very valuable tool. Take advantage of that.
Thank you, Diego. Okay. Yeah, I highly recommend you reach out. And just to let you know, all of our services are for free. So make sure you take advantage of your Education USA advisor before you send that application. Next, let's see the timeline. Because we get a lot of questions about this too. As Diego mentioned before, the Fulbright last file deadline has been extended to June 1st. So you have more time now to work on your applications, which is great. If you have essays, maybe reach out to the USA advisor and ask them to read over it. Maybe you have some questions, reach us out. There is time now, so make sure you send in your applications by June 1st. The deadline for Fulbright Professionals, on the other hand, is still June 26th. We have not yet heard of an extension, but who knows, we'll see how things evolve. So far, the date is still the same. After you send in your application, Diego gets, and I don't know how you do it, Diego, because you have a lot of work then. He gets so many applications every year from all over the country. So he has to go through all of those applications. He has a lot of work during those months. So be patient. This is not overnight. You won't hear from the embassy overnight. Normally, on a normal year, I would say the first weeks of September, when people that have passed to a second round, to the interview round, are notified. Then the interviews are normally around September, October, and the final, the scholars are given the final notification, I would say, in late October, right, Diego?
Correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah, that's right.
And once we start the program, we start working with Diego, and he's great at what he does. He's been with Fulbright for so long. He'll give you the advice. You'll start working with him in order to look for the universities that you will apply for, and everything else. If you're missing exams, make sure you meet all the requirements. And then by August 2021, you will be departing to the United States. So it's a very straightforward timeline. We do ask for your patience because sometimes when students don't hear from the U.S. Embassy by September, they all get nervous and start sending a ton of emails. Don't worry, you will get an email notifying you either if you have passed the second round or if you have not. So don't worry about it, but make sure you check your emails consistently. So yeah, I think that's it.
Excellent. I'm wondering if we have any questions, because I think that the time is pressing, and we don't have a whole lot more of time on this session. But okay, there's some questions that are coming in. I can read that. Patricia Lisette Ortube is asking, what is the minimal age to be a candidate? No, there's no minimal age really. I think that the basic thing is that you have a degree, as a university degree, a licenciatura. That if you have a licenciatura, you can apply to Fulbright. If you've gotten your licenciatura when you're very young, if you're 19, 20, that's okay, no problem. So yeah, that's the basic requirement.
Let's see another question. What is the meaning of GRE? Well, I don't know what the letters stand for actually. General. But the GRE is a standardized exam that is there to measure your English and mathematical abilities in order to be part of graduate school. So it's a requirement that most universities in the United States will require of you, whether you're doing a master's or a PhD. It's an exam that takes some time to study for. So again, if you think you want to focus on TOEFL first, then do the TOEFL. You don't need to do the GRE in order to apply. But note further on, if you are selected as a Fulbright scholar, you will be required to take the GRE.
Yeah, right. It's general requirements exam. It's like an entrance to. It's like universities have like entrance exams here in Bolivia. Many of the universities do. So it would be something similar to it. It's comprehensive. It includes obviously there's an emphasis on English, but also the analytical part that has to do more with like math and sciences and other things. So it's a comprehensive test.
Yes. Another question. La fecha límite para las PAU realmente se amplió. Yes. Well, you're hearing this from the embassy right now. You're hearing this from the man himself, because he was the one in charge. And yes, it has been extended to June 1st. So don't worry. You don't need to send emails to ask if this is true. It is true. We're saying it right now.
Right. And even if if you like, LASPAO is supposed to have like an automatic reply where it'll tell you that the deadline has been postponed to June 1st. But this is very recent. This is from end of last week. But it's a good sign that we are indeed flexible.
If I studied my bachelor degree in the USA, may I apply for a master's degree fellowship during my OPT year? I'm in my OPT currently.
Here, I have to tell you something, Isabel. This is policy made by Fulbright in the United States, that whoever has studied in an American university and has a degree, like a bachelor's degree, which is your situation, may apply to Fulbright, but it's not going to. It is not going to be the priority. Because obviously the priority are the students who have not studied in the United States. So it won't be, that your case would not be a priority, to be very honest with you. And this is policy made in the U.S. So yes, you may, but again, it would not be a priority application.
Yeah, and I asked the same question a few years ago, but we have to give opportunity to other people also that have not been to the United States. But Isabel, if you do want tips on how to get a scholarship for your graduate degree, you can definitely reach out to Education USA and we can help you out, even if you're currently in the United States right now. Another
No,
question?
absolutely. If you've studied in the United States, you have other advantages. You have an American degree, and then you have it's a whole new story. It's a different game. So talk to Education USA. They would be key here.
Yolanda Ramos asks, if I take the TOEFL test, but my score results are not sent yet, could I apply and send results for the test after the application deadline?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We've been flexible with that
for years.
For forever. So yes, we are flexible with that. And I would talk this time, maybe if you want me to be specific, I would say middle of August. That we, if that stands, the 26th of the, middle of August, we would accept TOEFL results until middle of August.
Yeah, but I would say make sure you, right now we have time, so make sure you schedule your exam with time. And, once you do, when you're applying, there is a box for extra commentary. Make sure to let the embassy know that you're not presenting the TOEFL due to, it can be any reason, but let them know, I am planning to take the exam on this date and I will get my scores on this date. Normally it takes 10 days. And make sure to send an email to the embassy once you have taken your exam with your score report to make sure your application is complete.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Andres Nunez asks, what kind of courses do you have? Our master's in BIM, Building Information Modeling. Is there any age restriction? This is a very common question, Diego. Are there any restrictions on the fields that people can study with Fulbright?
No. There's essentially there's two fields of study that unfortunately are not considered. One is medicine, the other one is dentistry, odontology. Those two fields are excluded from Fulbright. Other than that, the sky's the limit.
Good to go. Yes.
Any master's degree outside of those two is acceptable. We don't have age restrictions in Bolivia. There's some countries that do have restrictions. I can think of Argentina where they have a restriction of you cannot be older than 40 years old, but we have no restrictions.
Yeah, and also make sure that's a good thing, Diego, that you mentioned. A lot of people read on Fulbright when they're doing the research, and you may come across the Fulbright conditions for other countries. Every country has their own restrictions, their own requirements, So make sure to stick to what education, to what the United States Embassy is requiring from you. You do not have to fulfill extra requirements. You just have to fulfill the requirements that we previously showed you. That's all you need to send. You don't need to send more. You don't need to send less. So bear that in mind when you're doing your application.
Right, absolutely. Well, I think we have to start wrapping up. What I would like to tell everybody, one more question we will answer. But what I would like to tell you something. On Thursday, I will be on again. We are going to have Janina Prado, an exceptional alumna, a Fulbright alumna, that she will be with me, and she will also be able to talk about her own experience as a Fulbright. But what I suggest is that you keep on sending your questions, and we will have maybe a longer Q&A session next Thursday. So I want to invite you all to be with us next Thursday, also at 5:00. Like I said, I will be with Janina Prado, an exceptional Fulbright alumna. And okay, let's answer one more question, Claudita.
The last question. Fernando Justiniano asks, can Bolivian candidates who studied abroad apply to the program?
Right. I think we spoke about this situation with students that have studied that have degrees in the United States. But
this would be also maybe people that have done masters in other countries like Spain.
It's okay. It's okay. It's perfect. No problem.
You can apply.
If you've studied in other countries outside of the U.S., yes, the consideration is the same as it would be for a Bolivian. So no problem. Yes. So anyways, Claudia, I really want to thank you. I mean, you're amazing. And again, I want to reiterate that Education USA is very, very important. I think that this unfortunate situation that we're going through is going to you know, it's going to have positive things. And one of those positive things, I am convinced, is going to be the fact that Education USA will be known in a very different, you know, way for a lot of Bolivians. And Education USA, you know, it will be, justice will be applied to Education USA in the sense that they will realize that this is such an important, you know, network throughout the world, because it's not just Bolivia, it's throughout the world. It's like more than 140 countries right now. It's fabulous. And it worked beautifully here in Bolivia, and we have to also use Education USA. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you on
Thank
Thursday.
you, Diego.
Thursday,
Yes.
we will have another session. Claudia, you were amazing. Thank you, and we'll
Thank
see you
you
soon, because this is not going to be the last time with you. So
No,
we'll see you
yeah.
soon.
So make sure you follow Education USA, like in
Absolutely.
Facebook, Instagram. We also just did a live filling out an entire Fulbright application. You know, you do go step by step with me. So make sure you see that if you're thinking of applying. And Diego, thank you so much for all of your advice and all your tips. It's always good to hear from, you know, the source itself. So thank you so much. Thank you to the U.S. Embassy for having us. And don't miss out the next session with Janina Prado. It's going to be one that you don't want to miss. Thank you so much. And bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.